You would measure time, the measureless and the immeasurable. You would adjust your conduct and even direct the course of your spirit according to hours and seasons. Of time, you would make a stream, upon whose bank you would sit and watch its flowing. Yet the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memory, and tomorrow is today's dream. Exiled, persecuted, scattered. In 1920, 3 years after the Balfour Declaration, the League of Nations assigned Britain a mandate for Palestine. Finally, the ancient connection of the Jewish people with our historic homeland was recognized by the world's great powers, and a process for creating an independent Jewish homeland was set in motion. But such a state could not drop from heaven, ready built from foundation to roof. This is no common moment, our mission stated. No casual charity will suffice. An exceptional effort is called for. The appeal that is about to be made is to the Jewish conscience. We began to galvanize British Jewry in support of building infrastructure for a future Jewish state. But not all wish for our success, and storm clouds gathered in Europe. In response, we accelerated our mission, rapidly constructing shelter against the catastrophe befalling European Jewry. And then the world descended into a cauldron of barbarity, incomparable in scope, malice, and depravity. The United Nations partition plan was finalized, accepted, rejected, and violently opposed. Even at Israel's rebirth, its legitimacy was questioned, its borders disputed, its people targeted. By the following year, an ink flag and a fragile truce brought an end to hostilities, opening the door to a massive wave of immigration. A bruised Jewish population flocked to Israel, straining our fledgling state from within. And a staggering fundraising effort met the challenge, establishing self-sufficient citizens and fulfilling their dreams and our destiny. And from without, hostile neighbors continued to threaten annihilation. Each threat met with extraordinary resilience within Israel and a parallel fundraising drive abroad. Notably, the response to the Yom Kippur War inspired the biggest fundraising exercise by the UJIA ever. Keeping borders safe was one challenge. Successful immigration was another. By the end of the decade, Soviet Jews were experiencing increasing difficulty obtaining travel papers. And again, our donors enabled us to help huge numbers of Jews relocate to Israel, increasing its population by 25% in a span of just a few years, marking a shift from diaspora to Israel. Yet still, not all wished for our success. By the time JIA became UJIA and took on its current form, the changing geopolitical landscape called for a shift of our focus to address the challenges in Israel's social sectors. Over 100 years of passionate engagement with Israel, we have worked hard for state formation, a response to the Shoah, state building, community engagement, and the evolution of Israel-diaspora relations. We have spent decades fostering person-to-person, life-changing connections between British Jews and Israelis in Ashkelon, Dimona, the Galil, and more. And it is keeping this connection alive for the sake of our shared future, that is at the heart of what UJIA does today. We have come far, and yet the rallying cry of our mission statement is no less relevant and urgent today than when it was first penned. This is no common moment. No casual charity will suffice. An exceptional effort is called for.
It's been quite a century, and I'm delighted to be joined here this evening by two members of our UJIA family, Sir Trevor Chin and Imogen Krell, to talk about those last 100 years. Trevor was chairman of UJIA for 2 decades, from 1973, and in 1993 became president of UJIA. Imogen has been involved in a number of Zionist youth movements in Manchester, and after moving to London, became chair of Young UJIA. Now, we've just seen an extraordinary 100 years, but is it as important today to support a Jewish national home as it was in 1920? Or have we reached a point where we can say the State of Israel's established, mission complete? Imogen, in your opinion, what's the urgency and the importance to keep engaged?
Hi Miles, nice to see you. So I think there's obviously different issues today than there were in 1920, but I don't think that negates the importance of supporting Israel today. One only needs to look at the rhetoric surrounding the most recent election campaign in the UK, where a number of Jews said that they would up and leave and go to Israel if an anti-Semitic government came to power. So I think for Jews around the world, Israel is this really important security and buffer against anti-Semitism. Within Israel, despite its progress over the last 70 odd years, there's still very high rates of poverty. It's got one of the highest rates of poverty in all of the OECD countries. Unemployment figures are on the rise. And I think there's a real need for support from outside of Israel to really help the state continue its progress.
The state of Israel belongs to the entire Jewish people. Of course, it is the Israelis that build it and fight for it. I agree with what Imogen said. Israel is among the worst in the OECD in terms of inequality. That is not good enough. The responsibility for putting that right lies with the entire Jewish people.
So you've both made some really important points about the relationship between the diaspora and Israel. And I want to ask you to reflect on British Jewry and the diaspora in general. We live in an age of the cheap EasyJet 5-hour flight from Luton to Tel Aviv. And we live in a world where we're all instantly connected on social media. So as we become more international, homogeneous, more interconnected, more accessible, what are the benefits, Trevor, of protecting and promoting a sense of strong Jewish identity?
We're Jews. Identity is central to who we are. We represent a history of 3,500 years from Moses that brought the most extraordinary teaching to the world. Israel plays a huge part in that. Thank goodness it's cheaper to go to Israel. We know that over 90% of British Jews have visited Israel. It is central to their identity as Jews, and so we must promote it. I am so impressed that Imogen and other young people feel that tremendous commitment, because that is what will keep the Jewish people alive. We have a as Jews, we have a responsibility to the world. It's called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. We have to continue to do that, and Israel plays a huge part in that.
And you know, the Dalai Lama once remarked that Jews have withstood the passage of time because we constantly tell and retell our story every year at the Seder table, emphasizing our collective identity, which continues to shape us throughout the years. And so I do think it's really important to protect and to promote our identity.
But as you both know, we don't just have a long history. The UJIA is not just a one-dimensional timeline. I want to give you a glimpse into the breadth of work we're involved with, and I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Take a look at this. Now, that's a lot of projects, simply mind-boggling. Now, tell me, Imogen, how did you first become aware of UJIA and what particular projects have inspired you?
As a child, I went to weekly B'nai Akiva activities as well as their summer camps. And then I joined B'nai Akiva also on their Israel tour, and really seeing firsthand where history took place was fascinating. You know, I'm lucky that my parents often took me to Israel, but for many of my peers, it was really their first time seeing Israel and experiencing Israeli culture. And that really wouldn't have been possible without UJIA's support. So it is really important to have this support. Trevor, what's your story with UJIA? I'm sure you've got some great stories.
It was not a project, it was the project. I went to Israel for the first time in 1958. I was 23 years old. I must admit, I didn't belong to a youth movement and I didn't go on tour. I started going regularly and I started getting involved with work for Israel. At that time, actually, through what we call the Young JNF. And then the 67 war and the 73 war came along. For my generation, those two wars, or even just the 67 war, molded us into the people and the Zionists that we were. When you have experienced the 2-week run-up to the 67 war, we thought it was another Holocaust. Now that sears your heart and your mind. And I know that in no way can I escape my responsibility to Israel and to my Jewish community. It's part of me. And I think there's no question Israel played a major part in me being who I am. My involvement with Israel encouraged me to study, and I studied with somebody, not just reading, to learn more about what it meant to be a Jew and what my responsibilities were as a Jew. And I hope that over my many years, and I'm afraid there are many, I hope I have acquitted those responsibilities properly. I'm sure none of us fully meet our responsibilities. But I'll say again, to me, the most exciting thing of this event is listening to Imogen and who she represents. That yet another generation of young Jews in this country see their lives tied and involved with Israel. So I feel, and I look at my grandchildren, and I feel our Jewish future is secure.
Wow, you both shared some amazing insights. So, Trevor, how did those experiences shape your life, your work, and your own Jewish journey?
Okay, there is no question that my involvement with Israel shaped my identity as a Jew. As I've said, it led me to study, let me get much more involved in all sorts of things. I was chair of JIA for 20 years. It was too long. I should have stopped sooner because I think I might have discouraged other leaders. But there's no question that was part of my life, part of who I am. I have remained loyal to JIA. I am always ready to help, do anything I can that can be of use. I have to say that although JIA has cost me a lot of money, it has enriched my life. I am deeply fortunate that my life has been involved with Israel through the Joint Israel Appeal. We're celebrating 100 years today. Please God, I won't be there, but they'll be celebrating it in another 100 years. And I'm confident of that because of Imogen and others like her who are carrying the flame into the future. And now I hand over to Imogen.
So I think for me, UJIA has helped me build a strong love of Israel and of Judaism. And as a consequence, Israel is a huge part of my identity and what I stand for as a young Jew in England today.
Those are just two profound stories. Stories we make every day at the UJIA, creating impact both here in the UK and in Israel, across communities, spanning generations around the world.
I first got involved with UJIA on a birthright trip. I've now ended up dedicating my life to Israel.
From the age of 10, I went on summer camp with one of the youth movements with Ars Netza,
who had this incredible impact on my self-development.
And I really got bitten by the Jewish community bug.
It really gave me a passion and a buzz for the Jewish community.
And that just put me on a completely different trajectory of my life.
They had faith in us, they believed in us.
And it's a very profound experience that has a long-lasting effect on our lives.
For the last 8 years, I've been living in Tel Aviv. I made Aliyah. Today, I spend my time working with youth and teaching them about Israel and getting them to understand the beauty and complexity of this place.
I'm now at Haifa University in Israel, studying to be a licensed tour guide, and hope that I will inspire many others going forward.
I discovered that actually I wanted to make a career out of that and ended up training to be a rabbi. And I've been doing that work now for more than 2 decades.
The wonderful thing about UJIA is its work is a beautiful expression of the values of the UK Jewish community.
All of those things, I think, really set it out as a very special Jewish charity that really make an impact. It's not just direct impact, it's a web of impact.
When I was 15, UJIA enabled me to travel to the UK and experience winter camp, and it gave me a path to go to.
This encounter basically changed my life, basically changed my identity, changed the way I see the world.
And it gave me the character and the confidence.
I felt like that's my wings for me, that's the wings.
Because I was involved in the UJIA, I became Shaliach for the Jewish people over there in Mexico City.
I'm the founder and the CEO of Lotus.
I founded the Equalizer program.
I was one of the founders of the Israel Youth Award.
UJIA was among the first to support the venture.
UJIA had become a real significant, amazing partner for us.
They understood the size of the dream and they helped us to make the dreams come true.
With the support of the UJIA, Kamach had managed to have more than 20,000 graduates.
It's helped Meir Chavim drive forward major initiatives, the integration of thousands of Israeli teachers, Arab citizens of Israel, Ethiopian teachers, teachers with disabilities of all backgrounds.
Their involvement and their commitment saves lives of many young people in Israel.
My name is Lenat and I live in Jaffa, and they help me with the process of living in Israel. I feel like they're my family.
Partnership with UJ has made really an extraordinary contribution to the trajectory of Israeli society.
Thank you so much. Thank you for choosing me to participate in this event. Thank you so much.
My name is Dorina and I live in Kfar Eladim Karmiel. I was born in the central of Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Ichilov Hospital, and we lived in Rosh Hain. My favorite place was the park. I would go there with my brother and he was played football and I just watched him. That was enough for me. My experience from my last school, it was not so well because it's a very complicated story. I had a lot of problems and I felt that the teachers didn't see me and my problems and I left behind, and I think that I lost trust in the grown-ups. I came to the village at the age of 12. I came here with a big backpack and my teddy bear. I felt that what this village can do to give me back the trust in grown-ups and teachers. I hope to meet new friends and that everything is gonna be okay, maybe. I was so nervous because I knew that the first moment I look around and I said, oh my God, it's gonna be my second home. Tziki was my first teacher. The first light was a class here in the village. It's meant to closing learning gaps, and it was very difficult. I thought that teachers not want good for me and that they don't believe me. In the first day, she told me that, and in the beginning I said, no, you don't believe in me. You're a teacher, you are supposed to be a monster. They never give up on me. I feel that she saved me. I can describe her. She's like angel. I'm here almost 5 years. The village helped me to change that I'm again can to trust in the grown-ups. Patrick is my guide, the husband of Sarah, amazing person. I know how to respect grown-ups, and I can say that I'm a completely other person. I think that I would say to my young self that, hey, everything is okay. Don't give up to yourself. You're smart and you can do that. And you are not the loser you thought you are. This place makes me to be a different person, a good person that believes in yourself. I'm dreaming about my future, what that I want to do. I would like to be a lawyer for family issues, and I think that I will be good in it.
Darina is just one of hundreds of at-risk Israeli children, neglected or in danger, who have found educational and rehabilitative sanctuary at the Carmiel Children's Village. And Zoom, our UK-based illustrator, is a gifted benefactor of JLGB's programs. Both the Carmiel Children's Village and JLGB have been supported for many years by UJIA. And together, Darina and Zoom tell a touching story that captures the spirit of connection between British Jews and Israel.
Dear friends, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov on this special occasion. For 100 years, the United Jewish-Israel Appeal has been building bonds between Israel and the British Jewish community. You have been true partners in two of my central goals as president. The first goal is building a new Israeli hope by closing the gap in our society. The second goal is to tighten the bonds between Israel and the global Jewish community. Your projects are empowering weaker groups and increasing access to education and deployment. Your programs give the British Jewish community the opportunity to learn and experience Israel. During this period of the coronavirus, you have found great ways to maintain connection to Israel while continuing to support important projects. In light of the ongoing pandemic, this support is more important than ever. For 100 years, you have helped to ensure that generation after generation of British Jews are both proudly British and proudly Zionist. This has contributed greatly to the warm relation between Israel and the United Kingdom, which are reaching new heights. This January, I planned an English oak in the President's residence in Jerusalem, together with His Royal Highness Prince Charles. This tree symbolizes the deep roots of friendship between us. I deeply appreciate that the Royal Highness came to Jerusalem to commemorate with us and with 50 leaders from all over the world, 75 years since the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. In the name of the state and the people of Israel, I want to thank the leaders, members and supporters of the UJIA for all that you do. I wish you Shana Tova, a sweet new year. May you continue your great work for another 100 years and even beyond that.
We have seen much today of the work UJIA has done and continues to do for our communities. We have heard inspiring testimony from the humble to the prominent, from the leaders of today and the leaders of the future, about the impact of our programs in our countries, in our communities, on our children. We have been challenged to dream of our future, to imagine, if it were up to us, what our community could look like 100 years from now. We have been reminded that tomorrow is today's dream, that the future is up to us. And we have been tasked to dream big. For what other future would we want to dream for? UJIA will do what is required to make the future as big and as bright as we can dream it. But we cannot do that without your support. Through your donations this evening, you turn your dreams into fuel. And with that fuel, UJIA can turn your dreams into reality. It is up to us all. Tomorrow is today's dream. Please, dream big.
Their involvement and their commitment saves lives of many young people in Israel.
I understood the size of the dream.
It has enriched my life.
I feel like they are my family.
Significant, amazing partner for us.
Its work is a beautiful expression of the values of the UK Jewish community.
As Jews, we have a responsibility. It's called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. I feel our Jewish future is secure.
For 100 years, the United Jewish-Israel Appeal. For 100 years, the UJIA. For another 100 years, and even beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this evening's event and allowing me to share some times with you. My name is Idan Reichel, and I'm a musician from Israel. I'm excited to kick off the celebrations and bring some music to the evening. Firstly, to my British brothers and sisters, hello. I hope my English is okay for you. It's not my first language, of course, and I'm practicing. Secondly, wow, it's been quite a journey so far this evening, and it was a lot to take in. I really like the theme, tomorrow is today's dream. This is so true. As a musician, I started dreaming about my third album the moment I finished my second one. And I started dreaming about my second album the moment I finished my first one. But what about my first album? When did I started dreaming about that? Was it after my first live performance, or was it after my first piano lesson, or perhaps it was when my grandmother sang lullabies to me when I was very young. I don't know for sure. What I do know is that my dream to be a musician was like a painting in my mind. With every year, more colors and details were added, and it became more and more clear to me as I grew up what I wanted to do. Of course, my family wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor, but to pursue that would be to fulfill their dreams, and I wanted to fulfill mine. So far, so good. So in keeping with this theme, tomorrow is today's dream, I would like to play to you 3 songs. The first song is a song about a big dream that we will all live here as one big family, one big tribe. שבט אחים ואחיות.
שנה במכונית אני נוסע ומביט על מה היה ומה נהיה ואיך נפשי עוד הומייה מהמצדה של הזריחות ירושלים בסליחות מחוף כנרת ואכזים מהמסיבות של תל אביב אבי חלם והתפלל לחיות בארץ ישראל. היום ילדי אותי שואל מה הסיפור של ישראל. כאן זה בית, כאן זה לב, ואותך אני לא עוזב. אבותינו שורשים ואנחנו הפרחים המנגינות, שבט אחים ואחיות. שכונה, אותו רחוב, תסר בנים של יעקב, אוספים ביחד נדודים, בתוך תרמיל געגועים, אדם ונוף מולדתו, חורת קווים בכף ידו, בין התפילות לנדרים, ריחות פרדס של הדרים, ובעיניה של אמי, תמיד אמצא את מקומי, על הגיטרה מתנגן, ניגון עתיק שמכוון. כאן זה בית, כאן זה לב, ואותך אני לא עוזב. אבותינו שורשים ואנחנו הפרחים המנגינות, שבט אחים ואחיות. בראשית הכל תפור, טלאים טלאים של הסיפור, כמו שתי מילים להתחבר בחוט זהב של משורר. אני מכאן, אני שייך, בכל חבר שלי כמו אח. אתה פועמת בלבבי, אני מזרח מערבי. כאן זה בית, כאן זה לב, ואותך אני לא עוזב. אבותינו שורשים ואנחנו הפרחים המנגינות, שבט אחים ואחיות. כאן זה לב, ואותך אני לא עוזב. אבותינו שורשים ואנחנו הפרחים המנגינות, שבט אחים ואחיות, שבט אחים ואחיות. שבט אחים ואחיות.
Thank you. The second song that I wanted to play for you is called Mechake. It's about this little thing that is waiting for each one of us, just around the corner, to keep dreaming and never lose the hope that it will come very soon. Mechake.
יום אחד זה יקרה, בלי שנרגיש משהו ישתנה, משהו יירגע בנו, משהו ייגע בנו, ולא יהיה ממה לחשוש. וזה יבוא, כמו קו חרוט על כף יד, זה יבוא, בטוח בעצמו, כאילו היה שם תמיד, וחיכה שנבחין בו. וזה יבוא, אתה תראה, הידיים הקפוצות יתארחו, והלב השומר לא להיפגע יפעם, בקצב רגיל זה יבוא, כמו שהטבע רגיל להיות שלם עם עצמו. יום אחד זה יקרה, בלי שנרגיש משהו ישתנה, משהו יירגע בנו, משהו ייגע בנו, ולא יהיה ממה לחשוש. וזה יבוא, או קו חרוט על כף יד, זה יבוא, בטוח בעצמו, כאילו היה שם תמיד, וחיכה שנבחין בו. וזה יבוא, אתה תראה, הידיים הקפוצות יתארחו, והלב השומר לא להיפגע יפעם, בקצב רגיל זה יבוא, כמו שהטבע רגיל. אתה תראה, הידיים הקפוצות יתארחו, והלב השומר לא להיפגע יפעם, בקצב רגיל זה יבוא, כמו שהטבע רגיל להיות שלם. וזה יבוא, כשלא הכל יטלטל אותנו, ולא הכל יקר, ומה שיפתח לנו מחכה. ממעמקים קראתי אלייך, בואי אליי, ושובך יחזור שוב האור בעיניי, לא גמור לא עוזר המגע בידייך, שיבוא ויעיר למשמע כל צחוקר. ממעמקים קראתי אלייך, בואי אליי, מול ירח מאיר את דרכך שוב אליי, נפרסו ונמסו מול מגע של ידייך, באוזנייך לוחש שואל, מי זה קורא לך הלילה, הקשיבי, מי שר בקול אלייך אל חלונך, מי שם נפשו שתהי מאושרת, מי ישים יד באבני ביתך, מי ייתן חייו ישימה מתחתייך, מי כעפר לרגלייך יחיה, מי יאהבך עוד מכל אוהבייך, מי מכל רוח רעה יצילך ממעמקים. ממעמקים קראתי אלייך, בואי אליי, מול ירח מאיר את דרכך שוב אליי. נפרסו ונמסו מול מגע של ידייך, באוזנייך לוחש מול מי זה קורא לך הלילה. הקשיבי, מי שר בקול אלייך אל חלונך, מי שם נפשו שתהי מאושרת, מי ישים יד ויבנה את ביתך, מי ייתן חייו ישימה מתחתייך, מי כעפר רגלייך יחיה, מי יאהבך עוד מכל אוהבייך, מי מכל רוח רעה יצילך ממעמקים.
So that's almost it for me. Thank you again for inviting me to this party. And I would like to close by reflecting on the fact that I would never have been invited to play for you this evening were it not for a little kid with a big dream. If we don't follow our dreams, we probably follow someone else's. And if we don't dream big, we probably dream small. So, as you said, tomorrow is today's dream. Please dream big, and please support UJIA so that they can make our dreams a reality. Have a great rest of the evening, and best wishes from South Tel Aviv, Israel.